Alright, this is the second of the one series showing you basically how much you can put stuff together here. So we've got now a couple assemblies. I'm going to go ahead and realize now we've got two parts. We've got part 1 and part 2. Now how these end up parts, if I click out of here and go back, I've got two parts. I'm now going to begin another part. Some of the things we don't necessarily always understand is this adaptive bit, so we're going to really not worry too much about it. I am going to now begin another one, so I'm going to go ahead and return is what I'm trying to do each time. So now when I return, I see my new two parts. What you see on parts is a setting that basically is set for particular parts and the like. So I'm going to once again now create a third part going up this way, and I'll sketch into that plane again. So I'm going to create part 3. We'll see whether it's putting them in the right spot. Again, it was coming in metric, so we'll have to kind of realize once again what you need to do is you need to create a face off of which you're going to draft, and then it's another great idea to go ahead and right away project your geometry. And so I'm going to project that geometry and project this geometry, and project that geometry. Right clicking, done. I've got geometry drafted. Now, amongst other things you have the ability to do, of course, is to put lines in that you're not necessarily going to use. So let's go ahead and put a line up here. Now that is one where in effect you would like to perhaps make a construction line, get it locked going up. And let's see if we can now dimension that, which we can. So that one, if we wanted to go, let's say this was going on only 5 foot up, we would say 5 times 120. Or we can just type in, hopefully, let's see whether it takes feet, 5 feet. And it does. So with that, we now have something we can perhaps draft a line to. If you notice it's finding snaps, those are very much, and I'm going to go ahead and change that not to be a construction line. So I'm going to go ahead and say done. Take that and very often perhaps right click delete it. So you can see that when it comes to drawing lines, right click, whether it's a construction line or whatever it is, I'm going to go ahead and draft a line from that point to that point there. Now of course you might want to use offset, and that's where in effect sometimes you've got these tools, you don't know where they are, but in reality you're going to just instead be able to set a parallel line. So we're going to go ahead and draft a line from somewhere on here to somewhere on here, right? And we're going to go then draft a line from the endpoint there to the endpoint there. I'm going to draft a line from the endpoint there to the endpoint there, which didn't take. So I'm going to try it again from the endpoint there to the endpoint there. We'll see whether that takes. But now what you can do is you can set parallel constraint, and we're going to make this parallel to that. Right? You can then also set a dimension constraint, which I think is from there to there. And of course we wanted that to be perhaps our 12 inches. Now what occurred there, it looks like it did what we wanted. We still look like we haven't closed this up, but this idea of setting constraints and the like, that's how you go about doing it. I'm going to try to finish the sketch here and see what we get. F6 takes us to here. It looks like we still don't have that line drawn from there to there, but let's see if it finds the face anyway. Again, you're in part 3. Right? And so learning that you can, once again, have done this in AutoCAD is one way, but to come in and play around with this when you've got a little free time will kind of get you to more adept at working in some of these other software that are more intuitively 3D. So I'm going to see if I can find that face, which I can, and I'm going to push it in this time once again at 2 inches. Hit my profile. pushing it in, hit that, hit OK, and being done. Now I'm going to go ahead and draft this next one, hopefully by doing a copy mirror. So I'm going to right away hit now return, and then we're back to the assembly. I'm going to go back to the front view here. So that sense that we've got another part kind of set in that way. And one can take here and right click copy and right click paste, and then have another piece out here. And now my belief would be you can actually take this and mirror it. And I'm going to pick a mirror plane, which I don't have yet, so I'm going to step one in here. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around. We should have a mirror plane out on the edge there, so I'm going to go ahead and do a grab that, give it a mirror, pick the mirror plane, and then hit next. Hit OK. Now we'll see whether that actually holds that mirror to it. I'm going to hit return, return. I'm going to delete that. And now we're going to see if we can then finally realize that where some of these, I'm just kind of grabbing that and making it close. That how you might do the kind of learn how to use the constraint the other way. Now that I will point out, you're much better off learning to use the grips, because if you notice this already, looks like it is already kind of laid me out in some weird way. So what I'm going to do first is constrain that plane to that plane. So the way I do it is grab a plane, I'm grabbing a flush constraint, I'm going to grab this one there and that one there, and I'm going to make that as 0 inches because I want them actually to be right a flush on each other. I hit OK, and I would have heard a little pop there. In other words, those two planes, if you look around, should be correct, and they are. And now basically you can start to somehow do some drags. I would say that now you do it grip snap, grab the grip, go to there, and you start bringing it to where you want. In this case, you wanted it to snap to that endpoint. Done. Alright, so we're at 7:35. The last thing, of course, you had to do in this was a gusset plate. So once again, that's going to be the last part, and I'm going to kind of gusset all this up in some odd way. Remember, you've got this here. The command is create, project geometry, and then go where you need to go. So I'm going to create a component. This will be part 5. Naming is better, but we'll just go with that. In this case, we're going to zoom in. So I apologize for not being able to see that. Project geometry. I'm going to grab this geometry, that geometry, that geometry, that geometry, that geometry. In all reality, I probably would be starting to think about using some mirroring in this, so I only have to draft one side. I'm going to finish the sketch. And I'm going to actually do undo because I don't want to finish the sketch. I want to actually go ahead now and draft my line from perhaps from here up to there, up to there. Sorry. You see, it kind of wants to find all kinds of different things. I'm just going to sketch it out badly and poorly here. Go from there down to there, and from there across. I'm going to finish the sketch now once again, and I'm going to once again try, depending here if I want to get rid of those or not. Those are not necessarily, you'll see how they are going to grab that line when I try to do these extrudes. So if I try to grab this, I can actually hold the shift key and grab all of my things, so I don't necessarily have to clean that up. I'm going to come out this time. I'm going to come out just 1 inch. And I hit return. And I now have my assembly essentially done. The last thing, of course, is to put holes in here. We'll do that in the next 10 minutes. So, and realize that you can always go back to any of these parts, particularly this one, and do some changes. I skipped the step there of doing things like dimensioning and constraining. So in in Inventor, you draft your profile, more or less your cross section. You constrain, you dimension, and then you do your extrudes and the like. That's best done just like in Revit, probably by getting it well done in AutoCAD and then doing just an insert. Thanks for listening. Of course, in Revit, it would not be an insert, it would be a data link.